Hello, Internet, and welcome back to episode 2 of A Chat About SEO. We're here again with Kyle Roof. I'm Adam Truszkowski, and today we're going to talk about how SEO actually works. So, Kyle, how does SEO actually work?
Well, you can think of it that Google is kind of the index of all the information out there on every website. And it's the goal of the business owner then to create pages to show up in that index first, but then also show up higher in that index.
Okay.
So you want to get more visible. In broad categories, SEO has two different components. There's on-page SEO and off-page SEO. On-page SEO is what you put on your website, the words that you actually put there. Off-page would be signals outside your website that Google is looking for to show that your content is important, and that people like it.
Yeah.
That's often in the form of what we call backlinks. A backlink is when somebody puts a link on their site, and if someone clicks on that, they will then go to your site. And those are considered votes. So the two broad categories, on-page and off-page, and SEO strategy should kind of touch on both of those. So the content that you're putting on your site, and then how the exposure that content is getting across the web.
Is there one that is more important than the other?
It's not necessarily more important, but you do want to focus on-page first.
Okay.
You cannot rank a blank web page. That will not show up in the index and it will not show up higher. So you must get words on the page first. And that's actually also the thing that you control the most. Mm-hmm. The only thing that you have complete control over in this whole thing are the words that you're putting on your site.
Gotcha.
And so it is important to nail those down, to get those as tight as possible. Because also the better you do in on-page, the less off-page you need. And so you'll actually have more effective campaigns. Times to rank will be shorter, for example, if you get that on-page dialed in first. So you definitely want to focus there before doing any kind of external work.
Gotcha. So Google makes rules, sets rules for every website to kind of fall under. There's a difference between playing inside of those and outside of those. How do you handle that?
Yeah, so they have the guidelines. It's kind of, you can consider like a terms of service, if you will, and how you're supposed to play it. And if you're playing inside the rules, within the guidelines, that's considered what they call white hat SEO. And if you're doing stuff that's outside the rules, they consider that black hat SEO.
Gotcha.
Now, in the agency, we are completely white hat. And the reason is that if you are in that black hat space and Google finds that your site is doing things outside the guidelines, you can be penalized by Google.
Gotcha.
And so any rankings that you may have received from those black hat techniques, those rankings will be removed. And sometimes you can get in so much trouble that Google will just hate your site forever.
Yeah, she gone.
Yeah, sometimes you can recover. And most of the times you can. Yeah. But there are times where it's so egregious that Google just simply won't let your site back in.
De-index the entire site, essentially.
And I've never thought that there was really any long-term benefit in doing that, as you probably want your website to be evergreen. Yeah. For the length of your business at least. Taking those kind of risks never seemed worthwhile. Even though you might get some short gains in the long term, I don't think it's a good strategy for any business owner.
Exactly. For a business owner, there are definitely people out there that are trying to launch jack and traffic jack things for that quick.
For a very short-term gain.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But for the average business owner, you want to stay away from the black hat to ensure longevity of the website.
And there's also this perceived idea that black hat means better results. And that's also not the case. And usually what it is the black hat technique is just easier to implement.
Yeah.
But there's the white hat way to do it that'll be just as effective. It's just maybe a
little
more work. Yeah. That's kind of who likes to do work. It's
exactly.
So much more faster just to push a button.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah. All right. Well, the components of an SEO strategy.
Sure, there are a lot of components to it.
Okay.
A lot of things start with technical SEO. Technical SEO is looking at kind of the nuts and bolts of a website, like kind of what's on the inside of it. And you want to make sure that in that case that there's nothing that's going to prevent a site from ranking. So Google has to come and they call it crawling. So Google comes in and crawls a page. You want to make sure they're not doing anything that would block Google from getting to your site in the first place.
Having pages no indexed.
Right, so pages that just can't appear.
Yep.
And then once the bot can get there, that it can crawl through the site easily. Crawl through a particular page. There aren't portions of code that might be preventing the bot from getting through the page.
Gotcha.
Or from getting through the website. That you have broken links, for example.
Gotcha.
Or your menu or your header doesn't work so that Google can't get deeper into your site.
Yep. Gotcha. Yeah, the more pages it can index, the better chance of ranking for more keywords, right?
Very true. And larger sites do better. So if you have a lot of pages, you want to make sure that Google can get to all of them, and you can get the benefit of all that work that you've done.
Speaking of larger sites with more pages, that means more keywords.
That's exactly right. So another big then component of an SEO strategy will be the keyword research. This is the research going into what types of terms you want to go after, the things that will be most beneficial for your business. And sometimes those terms are difficult terms to win. Those are like the ones that you know about them, your competitor knows about them. The ones
everyone knows about
everyone
them.
Wants to. Yeah, everyone wants that term. That's part of it. You want to identify those key terms. But then there are also a lot of other supporting terms that you probably want to win as well. And a big part of that keyword research strategy will be some of those terms do we associate with that money keyword or that target keyword, and which ones do we create pages on their own for? Because something that people do not realize is that one main keyword is one page on your site. I often talk to people and they're like, I want to rank for this particular term. And I'm like, okay, which page on your site are you optimizing for that? And you just kind of hear crickets. And they're like, I'm optimizing the site? But that's not really how it works. Google doesn't rank sites, Google ranks pages. So if there's a term that's important to you, you have to have a page for that on your site. And so part of that research strategy, that keyword research strategy, will be to identify which terms we need for which pages.
Gotcha.
And then build things out from there.
Which goes hand in hand with planning content.
That's exactly right. Once you've got the keywords, then you want to create the schedule for how you're going to get this content out.
Okay.
Which terms we're going to go after first, which pages we're going to build out, and in which order we're going to have them go live on the website.
Okay. So when it comes to things on the website, you're talking about on-page optimization, essentially.
Exactly right. So kind of getting back to the beginning with the technical SEO and then the keyword research and then creating the content, that's all on your site, and that all falls into the on-page SEO category.
When it comes to on-page, are there tools to get that done, make your life easier?
Sure, there are a lot of tools that will do like your keyword research for you to help you find those terms, like what kind of search volume they have, how difficult they are to win. And then there are on-page tools that can help you write that content so that you're writing content that Google will like. And one particular tool, as I mentioned, the inventor and co-creator of Page Optimizer Pro, and that's a tool that can help you with that. So it's the idea of like how many times do we need to get these words on this page so that Google will, one, index it, understand what it's about, and two, like it a lot. And that means rank it higher.
Speaking of being liked by Google, EAT metrics.
So that's one of two of the most popular topics in SEO are EAT, and the other one is AI, and I think we have a whole episode.
Yeah, that's a little on AI down the line.
EAT, it stands for expertise, experience, trustworthiness, authoritativeness. And really what it comes down to is, should your website be in the index in the first place?
Okay.
Are you, and it kind of comes down to two main questions. Are you a real business, and are you a real website? And so these are factors where Google is going to look and see if this website should be there at all. Initially, the EAT started with what they call the MEDIC update, and it went after YMYL, your money or your life sites.
Yep.
And these are sites that either give financial advice or medical advice and nutrition and health. So the idea is that these are like the two most important things. Like you need money and you need your health. And what I think Google identified is that if somebody is harmed by the information that they receive, where can they go?
Yeah.
Who can they talk to? But even on a less serious, like what if you order a product and you got the wrong product? How can you get the right product? Or how can you get a refund if something is broken? And so there are a lot of sites that try to hide that information on who they are or who is responsible for this website. And Google realized that's not a good experience when somebody needs help. And so the MEDIC type stuff that then is now turned into EAT is basically, should this website be here? It's who's responsible for this website and who's responsible for this content.
Yeah.
And keep in mind, a human isn't going and making this evaluation. It's Google, and it's a bot. So you need to put things on your website that a bot can find to identify, okay, yes, this is a real business, this is a real person, and this site should be in the index.
And we see in the industry a lot of, especially now, affiliate sites getting hit real hard because a lot of affiliates don't want to be found.
Right.
Unfortunately, Google wants to know that, like you said, there's a human being somewhere in that mix.
Yeah, a lot of people say like Google hates affiliate sites, and that's not true. It's just that a lot of affiliate sites try to hide all their information, and Google hates sites that are hiding their information. Yeah. But there are a lot of signals you can put on a website, and it's never one thing. It's ticking enough of these boxes on these signals to show a bot that you are a real thing. So this would be like putting an address on your site, a local phone number on your site, multiple email addresses, those sorts of things to indicate that you're a real thing, you're a real place, you're an entity, you exist, and people can contact you.
Gotcha. So we've talked about on-page. There's also the off-page side of it. Can you tell us a little more about that?
Sure. Off-page is primarily backlinks. So those are a link, as I mentioned earlier, that somebody puts on their site, and when somebody clicks on that, they would come to your site. That is a backlink. And off-page is usually in the acquisition of backlinks.
Gotcha.
You can think of a backlink as a vote. If you're not like that's that website endorsing your site, voting for your site, saying this is good content. But not all votes are equal. Some votes are worth more. So if you have if you're in the sports niche, for example, like getting a link from ESPN would be more valuable than getting a link from joesports.com because ESPN is such a huge website presence and everyone knows it and it's popular. So if you get a link from that, it's worth a lot more. So the more links you get, the better, and also the more authoritative links you get, the better.
Okay. So from time to time, I get emails letting me know that I can get 10,000 links for $5. What do you think of these marketplaces out there?
You want to avoid all of those. Those types of links are likely going to get you in trouble. In addition to votes, and then more authoritative votes, there are also negative votes.
Okay.
Google wants to avoid spam, and so any kind of link that is a spam link is something that can get you in trouble, and then that's what those are.
Gotcha.
When you're staying within the guidelines, what they look for are links that have gone through an editorial process, that website looked at your site and has decided to link to you. If it goes outside that editorial process, an automated process where you just push a button and get 10,000 links, that is outside of Google's guidelines. That is Black Hat.
Okay.
And that's the kind of thing, if Google identifies your site as doing that, that's how you get your site penalized.
Gotcha. Okay. So we've done on-page, we've done off-page. Is there a way to track the results?
Yeah, you certainly want to track your performance. You want to see that your site is growing. Some of the KPIs that you want to look for are that your site is gaining keywords.
Okay.
Sites that are doing well, sites that are healthy, are growing keywords. A lot of people don't realize this. They often think of like, all right, I've got this one page, I'm going after this one keyword. But sites don't just rank for one keyword. Sites that are healthy will rank for hundreds, if not thousands of keywords. And you want to be tracking that. You want to make sure that you're gaining those keywords. At the same time that you're gaining keywords, you're going to gain impressions. That's views of your site in search engines. And then ideally, then you're also gaining clicks. That once people have seen your site, that they will click through and go to your content. Now, to track all of that, you can use Google Analytics, which is a tool from Google that monitors how things are going on your website. And then also Search Console, which is also a tool from Google, which monitors how your organic traffic, the traffic you're receiving from Google, is going. And you can bring all of that into reports in Looker Studio, which used to be called Google Data Studio. And within there, you can get a real comprehensive view of how your site is performing. Is it gaining stuff? Is it growing? As you would hope through the SEO strategy. But comprehensive reporting is extremely important. If you are doing this process, you need to know where you were, where you currently are, and then how to get. It'll help you project and see how you can get to where you need to go.
Gotcha. So you mentioned a few tools that Google has out there that webmasters and website owners, business owners can use. What about third-party tools that are out there that do similar things?
There's certainly value in those, and often you can pull some of that data into your reports. Like if you're doing a comprehensive report, say in Looker Studio, you can pull in data from some of those third parties to kind of enhance what you're receiving from the Google tools. And I will say that I think the Google tools are a little more authoritative because you're getting that directly, information. Yeah. Now there is statistically it's called lossiness. And the idea is that not all the data is there. You will lose some data, so it's not 1,000% accurate, but it's not bad. It'll give you
Most of it.
Most of it, and not just a bird's eye view, but probably something pretty good.
Yeah.
And then those third-party tools can kind of give you some enhancement as well. A lot of those will be looking a lot at backlinks for you.
Yeah.
And then also on the technical side of things, making sure that there aren't crawl issues, because you won't get that type of data from Google. You usually have to use another tool to kind of check and make sure and report on that your site is healthy and doing okay.
Gotcha. Well, Kyle, I appreciate your time. Thank you for tuning in to episode 2 on how does SEO work. Stay tuned for episode 3, where we answer your burning questions about SEO. And in the meantime, if you'd like to learn more about how SEO can help your business, book some time to chat with me. We'll see you in the next one.